Hi there. Oh, I think I'm live. So this stream is sorry. This stream is making this stream because I want to answer a question that we've gotten on the forums. And the question is this. So how do you get different character sprites for your characters? So right now if you look at the game for we've gone on for 20 parts and we still are unable to assign unique character sprites to our characters. So all the characters, no matter which character you choose, you will find that all characters have the same sprite. And there is actually no way for us to assign unique sprites to each character at the moment. So I'm gonna go through with you how you can do that, and it's actually not that complicated. It's actually quite simple. So let me just show you how to do that in the editor first. Okay, so the trick lies in actually the character scriptable objects. So if you are following this series and you're before part 15, so you're part 14 and before, you will find that the scriptable objects will be called character scriptable object. In part 15, we ported the character scriptable object to a new class called character data because we revamped the weapon system. But the steps should more or less be the same. So if you are before part 15 and you are implementing this, you can follow more or less the same steps. Okay, you just gotta edit a different script. So before I edit the script, I'm gonna show you what we are aiming to do first, all right? So what we want to do is I have a bunch of sprites over here, a bunch of new sprites. These are 8-bit character artwork. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create new animations for this new character so that I can show you how this works, all right? So the play animation is actually controlled by this animator controller called player, and then we have a player walk animation, all right? So to implement new character sprites, we have to do two things. If you look at every character, he has a walk animation and he has an idle animation, all right? So we've got to replace these two animations. To do that, right, because every character is gonna follow the same animation logic, and then the animator controller controls the animation logic, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna right click, create, and create a new animator override controller over here. I'm just gonna call this Porter Ladonna. It's going to call this player portal Ladonna. Okay, and this will be the animation logic for the lightning ring character. So what animation override controllers are? They are basically animator controllers that have the same logic as another controller. So the only difference is in the animation. So if I want the same logic with just different animations assigned to these different states, I will create animator controller and assign the original animator controller here, and you will see that there is one animation that I get to override. The reason why there is one animation even though there are two animation states over here is because the idle animation in our project has no animation. So we only have to replace the player walk animation over here. Alright, so the next thing we want to do after creating a new animator controller for the different sprite that we want to have, we also want to create a new animation for this new animator controller as well. So this will be for another character, right? So I'm just gonna go to the game scene and use the main character that we have over here, and I'm just gonna go to the animator and replace the new animator controller on the player. Why am I doing that? This is because I want to create a new animation, right? So let me just create a new animation, and this will be called player porter Ladonna walk, right? And then this animation has to be assigned to this animator controller, all right? But for me to actually populate the animation, I will need the animator to be attached to a game object that is on the scene. So now that I've attached the animator to a game object on the scene, I can go to animation here, and I can assign the frames for my character. So let's say if I want my character to use the walk sprite over here, okay, these three sprites, I can just drag it in, and then I will apply this to the portal Ladonna animation. And I also want to reduce the frame rate over here. So if you don't have this, you can just click on show sample rate here to show the sample rate, and then set the animation sample rate to 8. And then once I do that, you will see that the walk animation becomes another character's walk animation. All right. So now that the animation has been done, I can set the player back to its default animator. All right, so I'm just gonna go to player and restore the original animator controller to the player, and I will get back the original animation. All right, so what I'm trying to show you here is that we first, for every character that we want to have, we have to create a new animator override controller and create a new animation for the character. Okay, make sure you set loop time as well, because walk animations loop, right? So then we have to assign the animation to the animator controller. This is for every character. Okay, so if you have more complex animations, let's say if you have idle, you have attack, for example, different animations, right? You will find that there is a longer list. And so let's say if you have 3 animations per character, for every character that you want to create, you have to create 3 new animations for them. And again, to create animations for these characters, you have to find a game object on the scene, assign a new animator controller to the character, so that you can go to the animation window and add the sprites. All right. So once all that is done, okay, let me just run through how you would change the animation for the character on the game scene. By default, the character has a default guy, and then the default guy has a default walk animation, right? So if I wanted to change the animation for the player character, what I would do is the following. I would change the animator controller, and I would also change the sprite over here. So the sprite over here, I would change this to the same sprite that I just selected, but it's the idle animation, right? So once I change the sprite and the animator, you will see that the character has new sprites. Okay, he reverts back to his old sprite because of some it's an animator issue, but otherwise he should have the new sprite as well. Okay, I will address this issue later, but you see that if I replace this sprite here and I replace the sprite in the animator, the character's animation will change. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is, okay, let's actually fix the idle animation first. Okay, because even if I change the sprite over here, right, let me just replace this again. And even if I change the player sprite over here, okay, even if I replace the player sprite over here, you will see that the player still reverts to its original sprite. Okay, this is because if you are following our project entirely, our idle animation is missing an animation, and this is causing some bugs with the animator. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna assign the walk animation to the idle animation as well, but I'll set the speed to 0. So what this does is that this will always use the first frame of the walk animation. All right. So once I assign the idle animation, you will see that everything still works fine. All right. Except that now the idle animation also has animation state, but you should still find an animation override controller that the player walk is the only animation that you can assign. All right. So once you've done that, right, you will find that if you just replace the animation controller or the animator controller on the character, the sprites will entirely change. So let me just show this to you. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab the animator here and assign someone else. Okay, and you will see the character sprite will change. So the key to changing a character sprite is actually just changing the animator controller over here after creating a new animator controller. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing, but now we're gonna do it by script. All right, so usually if you want to write a script for something, it is always good to first figure out the configuration that you want to make in the component level first. What are the changes you want to make to the game object? Once you have found that out, then you can just do the same thing using the script, and this will cause you to get the same effect as if you were making the changes in the inspector. All right, so it's really a simple change in the script level, and you can find the changes in the forum topic as well. After this stream, I will just leave the link on the video description so you can refer to that. So I'm gonna go to the character data scriptable object, which is right here. And in the scriptable object, what we want to do is just to add a new public runtime animator controller, and this I'm just gonna call it a controller, right? So what is this animation runtime animation controller variable? This creates a new field that allows us to assign an animator controller to the character. All right. So let's say just now we created a new animator controller for the Portal Adorner character, right? So now we just have to go to the Portal Adorner character and assign the animator controller we just created to her. So let's go to Art, Animations, and then we have this new animator controller, right? Let's just assign it here, all right? So once we assign it here, the next change you want to do is to go over to, let's go over to the play animator script and the player stats script. Okay, so in the play animator script, and the player stat script is what controls the character that is selected. So when you select the character, notice that every character has a starting weapon, right? If you recall, every character has a starting weapon. The player stat script is responsible for assigning this starting weapon to the player character. So you also want to make the player stat script assign the animator controller to the character as well, so that you know the animation for the new character plays instead of the default character, right? So under player stats here, you will find in awake that we can do something to assign the character. Why? Because the character animation is inside the character data over here. So what we want to do is we want to get character data dot controller and put it into the animator, all right? But the animator is controlled by the play animator script inside our project. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna go to the play animator script and just add a new function called set animator. And what this is going to do is going to take a runtime animator controller like this, and this will be just C. And then over here, I will just do a if am is now, then am will be equals to get component animator. So this is the same logic as the start function. Okay, so I'm just calling the same get component that you see in start, because there is a possibility that this function may be called before the component actually starts up. So I just want to make sure that the am variable has something inside. So what I want to do is just am controller equals to C. Sorry, this is one runtime animator controller. So am runtime animator controller equals to C. So I just want to update the animator's controller variable, okay, as I've just shown you before. This variable over here, which is, where is it? Which is right here. Okay, we want to just replace this variable over here. And the variable in the script is called runtime animator controller. So we just create a function that we can use to assign a new animator controller for the player. Let me just name this function more appropriately. And then once we are done under player stats, under the awake function, I will just get a reference to the play animator like that. Get component play animator. And then I will call set animator controller on it like that. And this will update the animator. Okay, so just to make our code more organized, I'm just gonna put the variable here, play animator. Okay, so that if we want to reuse the reference in the future, we can do that. So this will be player animator equals to this, and play animator, set animator controller like this. So once we've done this, actually, when we select the character, right, this should cause the character's animation to be assigned to whoever the character we want. All right, so I'm just going to show this to you later. Again, you can refer to the link in the description below to look at the scripts, because I've posted the script in the forum topic as well. So now if we go back to the character select screen, let me just save the changes here. And then let me just get the button for the Portal Adorner character, right? So I'm just going to make sure that the functions here are assigned correctly, because over here it says Antonio, right? So the Portal Adorner character gives you the Antonio character, which is not something that we want. So I'm just going to change this to Portal Adorner. And you will find that once I select this character, the sprite will be different. Okay, so just a simple, it's a 5 to 10 minute change. Okay, it's a really simple change to update the character sprites. So I hope this helps, and let me just fix a couple of bugs, all right, with this. Okay, so what I'm gonna do also is I'm just gonna make sure that this only runs when the character data has a controller, right? So that if the controller is null, because some of our characters have a null controller, right? For example, llama, let's say if it doesn't have a runtime animator controller, or any one of our characters doesn't have a runtime animator controller, they will still default to using the default character sprite. Okay, but only the character that has special animations will have a special controller attribute assigned. Okay, and also make sure that if you use a different character animation, then you want to also update the character icon, right? This is equally important as well, because when your character dies, notice that the result screen will show the character icon, right? So if you do not assign the correct icon over here, then the character icon and the result screen when you game over will still be different. All right, so just go ahead and start creating animations for your different characters, and you should be able to get your characters to have unique sprites. Okay, so they don't all have the same sprite. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this very short stream. If I'll watch over the stream, and if it works, then I will not create an edit, because this is just meant to be a quick and dirty demonstration to show you how to assign different character sprites to your characters. Okay, so that's all I have. I'll see you all